Hello everyone, Elijah here. Welcome you all to another Epic 7 video. Today, since the resolution season has ended, I will be doing a little account review, showing you guys all my units and things of that nature, the units that I used the most during my RTA season, and stuff like that. And yeah, I finished the season in Champion. I didn't push for anything further than that just because I really like the Champion border, and I kind of just like and I don't even think I am like at the level to even push for something like Emperor, but who knows, maybe next season I'll get there. But for now, I just always go for champion and just hang out with all my champion buddies. But yeah, um, this season I would say that I changed a lot as the season progressed. I started off playing super aggro and super just like just trying to be furries, kind of cleaved a little bit, did not work out as well. And then I changed to a more protect the DPS type of style where I would draft probably like Spectre and Landy as my solo DPS and then have like three supporter units to pair with them. And that's kind of just how I evolved over the season. And yeah, so to start things off, I guess we'll just go in order of CP. Here's my Calric or Kekarik or hand guy, whatever you want to call him or refer to him as. His gear got nerfed as the season progressed. I used to use him in the beginning. He was a really good answer into AOL or Rimuru just to turn reset them. He used to be like 270 speed, but his gear got nerfed to and given to like other units or whatnot. Um, but yeah, these are his stats. I probably am going to end up benching him because I have like no use for him anymore and give his gear to some other people and things of that nature. So yeah. And then we have one of my MVPs of the season, Spectre Tenebria. I changed her from lifesteal. She was in the beginning of the season, she was lifesteal. And then I changed her to just a full DPS Spectre on pin set because of the fact that her initial soul burn actually does a lot of damage with pin set, and plus the S3 paired after that, you are going to nuke one person at least. Like whoever you're focusing, they're going to die with a Spectre at this like stat level. She would need a little bit more crit damage to be honest, but aside from that, she's built pretty well, I would like to say, and she carried a lot of matches for me for sure. Then we have Strays, who I built towards the end of the season due to the fact that I kept having an issue when people draft extremely tanky against me. I end up not having enough damage to deal with them, or I end up drafting myself in a situation where I don't have any damage at all to deal with them. So I drafted Strays to kind of be that like interrupter to kind of like scare people who draft extremely tanky, and he should be a lot faster. But if you're pairing him with like a CR push like Amelia or Diane or something like that, then this is pretty fine. Like he's gonna one shot their tank for sure, no matter what. Summertime Mysteria I never drafted this season or ever used because I do not cleave. I use her for Guild Wars and that's about it. Adventure Ross actually is somebody who I started drafting towards the end of the season, and his barrier is massive. As you can see, he has 28k HP. I could probably drop that a little bit for some more effect resistance so he doesn't get like provoked or stunned or anything like that. Or also I could make it a little bit faster and increases effectiveness a little bit probably. But yeah, this barrier that he gives is massive with him having this much HP, and it's great. It's great, especially paired with units like Rem. I think it worked really well with. Also, Apocalypse Ravi. It worked really well with. Like they just could not kill that unit, and then eventually just ended up losing. So yeah, Milla was another unit who I nerfed her gear as the season progressed. She used to be like 250 speed to really make sure that I am faster than most Landies. And then I didn't really need her to be that fast because she always would get banned, and she was more so seen as a threat to be like a must ban unit for a lot of people when they drafted Landy, and that was kind of like that was really all that she was there for. She doesn't have 100% crit, but she will 100% crit a Landy, which is her whole purpose is just to kill Landy, at least when I'm drafting her. I would like her to have a little bit more HP and some more crit damage. Also, I would like her to be on pin set, which ignore the ample amount of energy I have right now, but there's a hunt event going on, and I'm currently farming KDs for pin set because I really need some really high quality or just decent quality pin gear. RB, I draft whenever I was getting cleaved. Other than that, I didn't really draft him. Um, I would say that, his attack is very low for an RB. I also like this ring needs to be replaced at some point, but his attack's very low. But when he does gab, he does solo win. So, but if he doesn't gab, then it's kind of like he doesn't do as much damage as I need him to do. But when he does gab, he solo wins matches, and it's just over for most cleavers with these stats. I would like him to have like 4K attack, to be completely honest. I think I could get there. I'll probably have to lower his speed to get there to be 4K attack with just still this amount of crit damage, right? So yeah, I'll probably have to change that, but other than that, I just use him to farm adventure. Hua Young, her build changed throughout the season. She used to be like 15 speeds lower with a lot higher like defense and HP. But I really just don't draft her. She doesn't fit my playstyle. I don't really like drafting Hua Young. I just it just doesn't work out for me. But these are her gear, these are her stats. She's at 230 speed, which I think is like the bare minimum for most Hwayoungs, right? But a lot of people have a lot more HP and defense. Um, but I think this is decent. This is okay. It gets the job done when I am using her. So yeah. Landy, another MVP, but she's more of a coin flip due to the fact that if she doesn't Guiding Light, then she solo loses the match. But if she does Guiding Light, then she 100% wins the match, like, fully. This is her stats. I like a lot of people are building their Landies for Bruiser-like now to deal with the Diane meta that's going on right now. So I could use some more defense or HP, but I do tend to pair Landy with Fallen Cecilia, so I have plenty of damage mitigation to deal with. Um, you know, being so that Landy doesn't get like one shot if she does get break out of stealth, for the most part, but it really just depends. Very coin flip unit just because Guiding Light, if it doesn't proc, then it's kind of over for me. Politis, another MVP, she soloed once in matches purely because of Abyssal Crown. It's very annoying to deal with for a lot of people because I don't think most people expect Politis to be on Abyssal. I mean, some people build her more to have Tug of Hells and then have her Soul Burn, and then so that she resets her S2 passive. I have her built for some pretty uh, decent damage, not too like she's not like a super high damage Politis, but she does RNG. These stuns get off, then it will mess up a lot of teams and interrupt a lot of teams and their setups. And she's done a lot. She's such a strong unit, especially in this current season, especially when Soul Weavers are becoming a lot prevalent, especially Soul Weavers that turn cycle a lot. She can interrupt a lot of those like Amelia, Diane users heavily, and she really messed up a lot of the people who use those kind of units. Then we have my Assassin Sid. I got him towards the end of the season, like I literally summoned him towards the end of the season, and he is really just a threat to scare cleavers or to scare anybody who drafts Politis against me, due to the fact that he could just one-shot most Politises turn one, and I have him speed tuned to be faster than my setup units so that, he obviously goes first and then one shots like the Politis or maybe like a Celine. A lot of people draft Celine into me and he was a really good answer into that, and things like that. But typically speaking, he would just get banned. I would like his attack to be a lot higher, and obviously he's not like an A Sid that can really contest speed contesters due to the fact that you would want him to be around like 310, 315 speed if he is going to contest any like speed contester. For sure, you want him to have like that amount of speed. Para, I did not draft a single time this season. She is on my Guild War defense. She's too slow I can only really draft her, like, last pick if I know that she will be the fastest unit, and those are never an opportunity for that, so I just don't draft her. I drafted her she used to have my premium speed gear, she used to be a lot faster, like, probably around, like, 290 something, but due to the fact that, designer Lilibet became such a prevalent issue, I just couldn't every time I drafted her, designer Lilibet would get picked, and then it would be paired with somebody else who I also needed to ban, and then I just didn't really get the most out of her. Carrot, I drafted probably, like, 3 times. She worked probably once out of those 3 times. I don't think she's tanky enough, to be honest. I think she needs to be faster as well, and some other things. She kinda has just, like, random gear, 'cause I initially didn't have Milim built, and so Carrot was my answer to deal with Landies, and then Carrot wasn't a good enough answer, so then I just built Milim and gave her some pretty decent gear. Solitaria, love this unit to death. I probably have lost a lot of matches trying to force use her into a lot of drafts. Um, a lot of people are building their Solitarios with high effect resistance. I just haven't farmed the gear to do that. This where she is right now is fine. She shuts down any Rimuru or any kind of like if I know that she's not going to get outsped or they don't have like a debuffer like Para or whatever, just draft it before her. She's a very easy unit that I can just draft into. I'm probably going to change her artifact to Abyssal Crown just to deal with I do like her on Fairy Tale Nightmare because it does give her a little bit of damage, um, you know, in the fights, but I don't really think this artifact is that good until it's plus 30. So I think I'm going to change her to Abyssal Crown and then have her just be an RNG stun Fiesta kind of unit. Mediator didn't really draft that much. I'm not really happy with his build. I want to re-gear him to more of a speed effect resistance kind of build and build him around having like 240 speed and then the same amount of HP, some little more defense, and then like 120-ish effect resistance. I think I'm gonna try to go for a build like that, but I just don't have the gear for it at the moment. So I'm kind of like farming the gear for it and trying to rework his build so that he can have some effect resistance so that he does not get restricted. Getting restricted is like the worst thing ever, especially because of the fact that if he gets restricted, then, Warhorn just does not do his job. We have Cocker Lilius. She has my better speed gear for the most part. There's just like so many like speed like openers that needs to be fast that she kind of I have not gotten a ring to replace this. Really would like an HP percent ring to replace this, but I just not have gotten one that is faster than that. But yeah, she's for the most part just built. She's definitely the MVP. I definitely draft her like more times than not. She just definitely is not a speed contester of any sorts. I have her on this artifact just because of I just like the funny aspect of giving somebody a defense up or continuous healing or a barrier that when they did not have one. So yeah. Um, she did pretty well this season. She is definitely a top tier unit that if you have her, you should build her and probably give her your best of gear. Then we have Mercedes, who build has changed at least like 20 times this season. She was on counter set, she was on speed set, now she's on lifesteal. I think this stat line is fine. I think she just is too slow. The one time that I did draft her with this lifesteal build, she did do okay. It was just that I feel like she got lapped, so she's like a little too slow for my liking. So I would probably want her around like 190 speed if I was going to ever use her actually again in RTA. Apocalypse Ravi, a unit that I got in the middle of the season, like towards the end of the season actually. I just gave her this free gear set that we got from Ancient Inheritance, and she like does well. She definitely is on a lower damage and side of the spectrum, so she isn't really built to be like a too much of a high DPS or a solo DPS kind of unit, but she can do very well in longer fights. So if I draft very tanky and pair her with a different DPS, She can, stall out fights really long, and then, when she has a revive up, she can really put in some work on that end. But for like a upfront, like super strong DPS, APOC obviously is not really that much. But when she does counter, she does do really well when she does counter, um, and things like that. I would say Troublemaker was an MVP for me as well into cleavers. He definitely did a very good job interrupting. I think he should be on Holy Sack if I'm really gonna use him into a lot of cleave drafts, but he's on a Bastion of Hope for the more effect resistance, so he doesn't get debuffed at all and things of that nature. But yeah, he does his job very well. And yeah, these are his stats. I already click through this? I definitely did. I definitely did. I just had like a brain fart, not thinking that I did. But yeah, these are his stats. I think I would want him a lot higher defense. I think that's what he's lacking. He just needs some more defense, a little bit more HP. But other than that, he's pretty well. Rimuru, I do not draft. I do not use. I just don't really care too much for Rimuru. People are building their Rimurus a lot higher DPS. He kind of just has just random gear pieces, not gonna lie. I use him for Guild Wars. Definitely not a unit that I use at all, actually. Um, Honestly, somebody that I might bench and give his gear pieces to other people. AOL, I literally pulled her yesterday. As the day that I'm recording this video, I pulled her literally yesterday. So I didn't get the chance to use her at all this RTA season. So I have her built on a kind of a slower build with decent tankiness and some effectiveness and some effect resistance. We'll see how she goes in the next season, but this is just what her stats are going to be. For now, I don't know. It may change that she might need to be built faster in the next RTA season. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's my AOL. Sage Ball, I also another unit that I didn't really draft too often. Um, I just didn't really have the opportunity to draft him. Not that many people were cleaving me per se, so I didn't really have like an opportunity to draft him that often. So he kind of just had this gear and didn't really do much with it this season. I did pull him like towards the end of the season during his like Mystic Banner rerun or whatever, or I guess the middle of the season during when he had his like Mystic Banner up or whatnot. But other than that, I didn't really drafted him. I drafted him like once, and he did win the match, but I don't really think he was the reason that the match was won. It definitely was like a different unit that was why he won the match. Then we have my Dian, who is also MVP of the season. Like I drafted her when she got her buffs. I instantly build her and drafted her just about every time. She sadly I can't build her to be fast enough to have like this amount of bulk also this amount of effect resistance. This is as fast as I could get her. There are people who have their Dianes are like at like 285 speed. I just do not have the gear to do that. Unless I gave her some of my like premium speed gear, and if I did that, then she will lose out on a lot of effect resistance, which I kind of liked the idea of her having enough effect resistance to resist um, some most like standard like AOLs and things like that. Like I really needed her to resist those units. So yeah, I have her on Idol's Shear because most people when they see this unit, they will focus her down. And Idol's Shear really just helps with pushing up your DPS because like I said, I do draft in a solo DPS style. So my DPS unit can actually lap and cycle a lot faster when they try to focus down trying to kill my Dain. Then Efeto Kawazu, I nerfed his gear heavily. He used to be a like 230 speed in the beginning of the season, and then was never drafting him, like ever. So I made my Huayang a lot faster, and I just use him for Guild Wars, but I guess I'll just show his gear. Like he's not really um the best of builds at all, but he gets the job done in Guild Wars. But I did draft him probably like 2 times during the RTA season. Fallen CC, this was my custom Mystic Summon hero ML that I went for. I did finally pull her towards the middle of the season, middle end of the season, and she also helped out with my drafting, my play style of solo DPS, and she was kind of like the knight of choice for that. And yeah, she did really well. Now with Desert Jewel Bazaar buffs, I kind of have to play with the mindset that people could draft him essentially, and I couldn't really her as often as I used to. Like I could not early pick her at all. I had to like pick her towards like middle of the draft, like third or fourth pick. But aside from that, I mean, she did pretty well. I slowly then, toward the end of the season, I started drafting Adventurer Ross over drafting Fallen Cecilia, just because he was a lot safer of a knight to draft towards the end of the season, and things like that. Violet, the only time I drafted Violet is if they picked Rem and they were relying on Rem to be their like solo DPS. This is like the only time I drafted Violet. Other than that, I just don't draft Violet. I don't really like this unit. That's why his gear is kind of meh, because I just don't like this unit at all. So he does not have premium gear whatsoever. And then we have Bellion. When she wasn't, I started banning Bellion towards the middle of the season every single time. Just because I was drafting Spectre a lot, I had to pre-ban this unit almost every given instance. Her gear is mostly just like free-to-play gear. I actually think all of it is, now that I think about it. But when she was drafted and when she was used, she did solo win some matches, but I did have some times um, where she would not counterattack at all with Elbrus, and it just didn't work out too well. But for the most part, when she did, Elbrus procced, she did do her job, and she did work out very well. I mean, this unit is like super annoying to deal with, right? She can solo win matches, and she can also kind of just sit there and do nothing. So it's just kind of a coin flip kind of unit, which is why I don't really draft her, and I just started pre-banning her. And then we have Rim, who another RNG casino unit that I don't enjoy using ever. I used her probably once towards the end of the season with Adventure Ross, and the pairing worked out very well, especially into like a Huayang APOC draft. And then you having like Adventure Ross there, that barrier is massive, and it kind of just keeps her alive. And she just kind of has a barrier permanently, especially if they don't have any type of dispellers or strippers or anything of that nature. And she just like sits there with a massive barrier, and you just can't kill her. So yeah, drafted her once. She doesn't have the best of gear. Probably will at some point give her premium, really nice counter gear, but for now she kind of just has whatever. And because I just don't draft her. Aside from that, I think that's everything for like RTA units that I draft. Um, I think this unit was built at one point, but I just didn't really. I don't really think. No, I think this unit was built like a little bit in the beginning of the season when I was like testing her out, and then I just gave her gear to somebody else. So Teiyu was built in the beginning when he was released. I had him built, and then he kept getting like it just didn't work out well, so I benched him. Amelia was built in the beginning of the season, and I just couldn't build her to be fast enough as like a 260 speed Amelia. I just couldn't get to that standard unless I like really nerfed like my faster units. Um, and because of that, I just opt to not build her. She just really wasn't my play style, personally, and she just didn't really do the job done. Blair Witch Syria was also a unit that I had built towards the middle of the season when I got her from a Mystic Summon. However, the issue with Blair Witch Syria is that there's so many cleansers in the game right now that are really strong and are getting drafted very often. She just doesn't do enough, right? Even with full damage and things like that, like she just does not do enough. Um, but yeah, other than that, that's everybody, right? I don't cleave, that's why my Ran isn't built. And Remnant Violet was built in the beginning of the season, but again, if he doesn't evade, he kind of just solo loses, right? If he doesn't evade, he just loses. I think it's about everybody that I had built an RTA at some point of the season. Yeah, that concludes this video, and I We'll hopefully see you all in the next video. Peace and goodwill. Bye.